Fast Market, everyone. Kevin Hinks, Kevin Green, back here for our cash tag segment. Now I'd like to bring in the co-founder of Likefolio.com, Mr. Andy Swan, to the show. Andy, great opportunity here to talk about this mega cap Apple. They got some good news today or over the weekend. President Trump just made a comment saying, I helped Tim Cook out. So he's commenting on Apple, but the stock is about $10 off its highs today, up around 2012. What does the Likefolio data say about Apple?
Looks pretty good overall. I think from a product by product perspective, when we look at the year over year change in consumer searches for each of these Apple brands, iPhone is surging. iPad and MacBook are doing very well, and AirPods doing very well. So all of the things really that build the Apple ecosystem, that create the service revenues of the future, are doing extraordinarily well. I think that they're doing a great job of continuing to hold or advance their market share versus Android in most places. And on the laptop side, I think that the kind of vibe coding trend that started up due to AI has really benefited the MacBook, and we expect that to continue throughout 2025. So Apple's really in a really nice spot here. We see digital traffic, web visits up 4% year over year globally, 6% in North America. And so consumer interest in Apple products continues to grow, even without that kind of must-have item, that really disruptive consumer product that Apple became so known for under Steve Jobs. And so until we get that, which I don't know when we'll get that, Tim Cook doesn't seem to be really trailblazing in any sense. But once we get that, and I do think Apple will deliver a incredible consumer product within the next couple of years. I'm just not sure where it's going to be. Once we get that, it could be really off to the races, because I think Apple's doing a phenomenal job of integrating AI technologies in a really smart, not flash in the pan, sustainable type of way that will benefit the company and its customers in the long term. So overall, we're very bullish on Apple in the long term. There's going to be a lot of volatility, because who knows where the world and the Trump administration and the reactions to that is going to go in terms of tariffs and production and manufacturing. But from a who's doing right by the customer, who's making the customer excited about their products perspective, Apple continues to dominate.
Andy, what are you a little bit more excited about? Is it the software side or the services side, which drives a lot more profitability, or is it still hardware? Because I'm right there with you. I think what you were kind of alluding to is that Tim Cook doesn't seem like he's the big innovator, if you will, right? He's kind of a status quo type of individual. That's one of the critiques that you hear from a lot of investors. So do you think that they have more opportunities on the services software side, or do you still think hardware is going to be their bread and butter, let's say 3 years from now, 5 years from now?
Yeah, I think it just slowly shifts from hardware to software and services. I think that that's certainly underway. I think that Tim Cook's the right person to lead that transition, and it's the right transition to make. I do think that they would benefit tremendously from innovation on the hardware side, something that just makes people say, wow, I have to have that. You remember, it wasn't that long ago, 5, 6, even 8 years ago, you would have those moments where everybody would know who had the latest iPhone and who didn't, and what that phone could do that others couldn't. I think that's the one thing, of course, that's missing from Apple here. But when you've got a device on the wrist of, in the purse of, in the pocket of most of the consumer base that can afford high-level services and software upgrades and subscriptions, you're in a really good spot. And that's what Apple has. They have the distribution, a stranglehold on the distribution to the people that matter and the people that can pay. And so I think that shift from hardware to services will continue, and it will be very gradual, as it should be. I think they're doing a really nice job of navigating that with a 5-10 year time frame and time horizon in mind, rather than what can we do to satisfy Wall Street's AI desires right now.
Andy, one last theme for you to comment on. I don't know anyone under the age of 90 that doesn't have a smartphone. right? If I walked up to a sporting event now with a ticket, that young person there with that little machine wouldn't know what to do with my ticket, Andy. Tickets are only on phones now. Is a smartphone, that little computer that sits in your pocket, is that now a consumer staple?
Yeah, I think there's a good argument that it is, although, the commentary online today, I think, is really telling how much people miss the days without the smartphones. I think there's some nostalgia there when we watch the Masters and no one in the crowd is holding up a phone and recording instead of enjoying the moment. They're all enjoying the moment. And I think there's some nostalgia there. So there's probably a little bit of that, underlying desire to get away from the screen and get away from technology that I think Apple will have to contend with. And that's, I think it's Naval said a really great quote that the promise of AI is getting rid of the UI. And so, making these technologies more applicable to our daily lives without having to stare at a screen and type into a phone, I think is the next iteration of things that has to happen. I hope that Apple is a leader in that. I think they possibly can be, but there's certainly a lot of competitors that will have very different ideas of the way people should be spending the 4 to 6 hours per day that they're currently staring at a screen.
Yeah, Andy, I'm not sure. Since Apple is the conduit, is the tool that we use, I'm not sure if they have to have it right. They can adopt someone else's, in my opinion, and still be the most popular. Andy Swan, thanks for coming on, as always, spending some time with us, bringing the Folio data, as always, to Fast Market. We always